family. Is Namsa here at Ngozi Talk Shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. So with me today, I'm with Carol Ann Cooper and Shireen Lovegrove. How are you, ladies?
Oh, well, thank you.
Very good. Very good.
And you?
I am good, thank you.
Good.
So the topic today is the many faces of love, how we give and receive in a relationship. Love is a powerful and multifaceted emotion that shapes the core of human connection. So in relationship, love is expressed and received in diverse ways through words, action, time, and presence, yet recognizing how we and our partners give and receive love can be the key to deeper emotional bonds and lasting intimacy. So on this topic today, we're going to explore the many faces of love. We invite you to reflect to our unique love languages, how past experiences influence our expression of care, and how understanding this dynamic can transform our relationship into sources of mutual support, growth, and fulfillment. Shireen, I understand you chose this topic. What was the motivation behind it, please?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I think a lot of the time we have we think we're doing the loving thing, right? And often we're not actually being the most loving in the way that we would think we are. So what really came into my mind when I started to think about it is I often think about how um, we as women, part of our pattern is that we're often conditioned to be carers, right? So we often do a lot of over caring. And the word that came to me was often in relationships, we end up going into mothering roles, right? Because women tend to be the carer, they often take on those caretaking roles within the home. And so they often end up, in a way, mothering and not allowing other people to do much of the work in the home. So I was thinking they're either mothering or they're smothering. So in a lot of relationships, you might smother someone in the sense of wanting to give too much. And often what happens then is you experience the pushback, which a lot of people experience. So that was the thing that really got me interested in how do we love? And I know presence is such a key aspect, but there's something else that I felt was kind of important when we want to also, it's like another superpower. How do we discern? How do we discern the difference between, are we smothering in the form of how we're loving, and how do we discern to move into more the facilitative role, the role of how do we work as an adult with another human being in a relationship? So what is an adult role would be another important key concept that I think might be useful and helpful in this discussion. Yeah, so that was where my thoughts were going. And certainly, obviously, as a pregnancy coach, I can really see that happen many times where mothers overwork themselves, but they're constantly deciding that their husbands are working too hard, or they're at work and they're earning, and so they must do all that kind of role, which they see as their loving mothering role, right? Instead of seeing that as maybe it is not quite as balanced as it could be. So that was where my thoughts were going when I was thinking about this topic today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that about mothers overworking. I can definitely relate to that aspect and that sort of role that you put on yourself, expectations. And so, yeah, so wondering where all of those come from is a great avenue to explore. And what was interesting was one of my initial thoughts when I saw this topic, there's many faces of love. Without reading the other bit, I immediately went into types of love, actually. There's sisterly, brotherly, motherly, fatherly,
Yeah.
or, or just friendly, or whether there's that soul love. It's like, what type of love is there. So that was interesting. What I sort of flitted to that, certainly looking at the different types of love and how we come over. So like as you say, there's that smothering rather than supporting love. What drives them? For me, it's like what has them be there? And yes, how can you discern? What could what could you ask yourself? What are sort of flags, red flags that would have you go, oh, to stop and think, oh, yeah, and ask yourself some questions about your actions and what you're doing in the name of love.
Yes. Stop in the name of
Name of
love.
love. Yeah, so
Tom said you've got a great voice. You should be singing that song right now. Oh, she's not.
In the name, is that Ara Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's a very deep topic, is it? It's very, very deep. I like it when you say mothers overly working stuff. I think it's really defining what love is and stuff. But love is very simple. I think the thing that we do, we complicate it. As long as you understand the love language of someone, how you can love them, because the love, it has to be communicated to you. And then when it's communicated to you, then you receive. That's how I actually, when I saw this topic, I was like, oh, okay, how we give and receive in a relationship. So somebody will communicate their love language and you understand it, you give based on their love language, because there's no point in trying to, because some people, they think they're loving someone, but they're mothering them, like you said, Shireen. And so it's nice to understand someone's love language, and then you give based on their desires, what they want. And then you're able to receive as well. You have to learn to receive as well when it's given to you. If someone says, can I please make you a cup of coffee, or in bed, and be able to say yes. But some people, they'll be like, oh no, don't worry. And they want it actually. They want that hot chocolate in bed. They're like, yeah, honey, don't worry. I don't want to be a problem. But I think you have to learn it to open up, receive. So I think that's how I understand your topic, Shireen. Thank you for choosing it, because I think our audience, they do need it. People who are starting relationships, they need to understand how to receive, how to give. And people who are in a long-term relationship, they need to still keep working on their relationship by giving and receiving as well. Over to you, ladies.
I totally agree, and I think it's really important that we do understand other people's love language, but very often we don't take the time to find it out and really take the time to really check in that we're constantly matching that, right, for them. Because when we mismatch with them, that's when we get all the problems happening. And we often will say, oh, I thought you meant that, or I was being only just really kind doing this for you. But actually it's really recognizing that when we're in our own pattern, very often because we're in it, we can't see ourselves outside it, and we don't always see the effect of it. So I think that it really does take the ability to be able to monitor one's own behaviors and check them out and feel that mismatch when it's not happening quickly, so that you can then correct it. So yeah, that was something that I felt was really important. And yes, I agree that the love languages are the fundamental aspect of the way we are. And it's really interesting because they are based in sabotage behavior, right? In and of themselves. They're just to protect. Our love language is our protective way of looking after ourselves in some way. And we've got to find a way to be able to match that with somebody else's, which is why we're different and we all have our different love languages. I mean, for me, mine is definitely the love languages. Little things mean a lot, a hell of a lot to me. And that's because I had so much taken away from me. And so for me, just having little things meant that people cared about me. Like, remember my damn birthday. These little things mean so much to me. And I will remind people I have a birthday very often, just so that I make sure that they say happy birthday. But it's really important to recognize that that stemmed from a hurt, a wound. And I think we often forget that, yes, we have all these love languages, but they underneath, we really need to heal the wound that's been sitting there. And yes, we need to match people to start off with, but then we really need to be very curious. Very curious. Oh, that's interesting. You love little things, and this is what I need, and how can I help you with that? But you also want, as a person growing with someone, is to be able to expand part of their container and be able to allow them to have bigger things, right? Because the little things are very nice, but also about having those bigger things, which often is the bounce back from only wanting little things that mean a lot. You tend not to be a very good receiver. So it's just really understanding that there's this paradox that seems to happen. I think, for my understanding, is certainly when there is this, is just really pay attention to the wound. What's going on that I have to have this? What's really getting in the way? Or how can I help myself when people are not matching matching the needs that I have? How do I manage that? How do I navigate that? Like I said, I tell people it's my birthday. I tell them what presents I want. Please give me what I want, not what you think I want. So these are the little things that really matter to me. And I think that is about really understanding the validation that comes behind that, the wound that comes behind that, and how we manage that in a relationship. Because in a relationship, we have to be able to get those needs met in some way and also be able to meet other people's needs. So that was where the topic really started to bounce for me, when I started to look at the different faces of love. And I did think about the love languages, but then I got this real flash saying, the way we love is often caused by, the love language we choose is often caused by an initial wound. And to be curious about that initial wound that happened.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. So when you mentioned, love language, and we need to define what love is, but I wrote down rooted in, where is that love language? Where is it rooted? And again, that would then cause you to shut in the way you do and have those expectations on how people show their love. And I think for me, what sort of, that is a great aspect to look at. And what I feel that we're more sort of wanting to sort of explore here is how we're showing love to someone else. What are our actions? And that sort of, we're talking about smothering versus supporting. Is that mothering or smothering done in the name of love? But where is it coming from? We may think we're being really helpful, but we could be coming over as overbearing. And so again, yes, it's going back to what causes that behavior, and actually recognizing where, are we think we're trying to be helpful, but actually we are disempowering the other person by our actions. So again, it's being able to look at the other person, notice how our actions or what we're saying lands, and recognize, and step back and go, where am I coming from with this? What's that driver? Where's it rooted? Is there a fear there that maybe they won't cope, that maybe they'll disintegrate, or maybe they'll just get it all wrong and it'll take up your time because you've then got to do it for them, or things like that. And I remember
A controller. Yeah.
Yeah, that control. But I remember with my ex-husband having to learn to step back because very often he would, we'd get some furniture that was pre-packed and we'd have to put it together, and he'd then try putting it together. Me, I'm one for looking at the instructions. He just dives in, but very often he would just make a mistake and it's like, oh, he'd shout for help. And there was something driving me there that would always want to interfere or support it, or think I was supporting or being helpful. But actually, many times in the beginning, I was being quite disempowering because I was judging him and comparing him to my dad, who was very capable with things like that. When I sort of stepped back a bit and allowed him to, or would suggest, or just look at the instructions, or if he asked me, I'd wait till he asked, and then we'd look at them together and discuss it. He actually became quite good at doing it himself. He just never had that training or that support given when he was growing up from his family, from his parents. So how can you expect someone to have that ability to do a task like that when they've never really been shown the way? So I think there was a case of some sort of mothering that came in there as, oh, make it better for him. But actually, no. And I love something I read is sometimes love means stepping back, not leaning in. So just giving them that space to make their mistakes. But again, for me, there was with our finances, there was a fear that he would just completely muck it up. Because when we first got married, straight after we were married and we came back off where we didn't actually have a honeymoon, but we went and stayed with some friends for some time, and we came back. And then we found a letter from the bank to say we were overdrawn, and he just withdrew because he thought, well, the money was there when I spent it, but he carried on spending and he didn't have a clue how to manage money. So again, so I carried on organizing our money, fearful, and I could not let go. So it became quite controlling and out of that fear. And so, yeah, it did cause quite a few problems, but we did change, towards the end, things did change a bit. But again, yeah, it's recognizing where are you supporting them, where are you being more of assistance rather than helping. It's not about helping. And I learned that distinction when I used to assist at Landmark. They would always say, you're assisting, you're not helping. And in the beginning, it was like, oh, I couldn't get that. But I really got the fact that you're just assisting someone. So you're there to support. And the question is, how can I support you? Not how can I help you? Because help implies that sort of taking over or doing it for you. But support. So again, it's just in that languaging is sort of how are you looking at it? How are you seeing it for yourself? But yeah, look at what drives you to be that smotherer. But certainly, yes. So again, it's that exploring the ways that you think you're showing love, and actually, what could it be? How could it be landing with the other person? I think that's where we're going for me with this.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what Sharon, you said. You said little things matter to you than when someone does something they think you're gonna like it without asking you. I think that's really, really amazing. And Carol Ann, you said it is empowering and judging your ex-husband. I think there's lots of people that do that. For me, in my house, I go shopping on my own because I can guarantee you if I go food shopping, When I go to the till with other people, I get a shock of my life because they go to the gadgets department. You go food shopping, but gadgets department. But me, I'm wishing they'll go and pick. Actually, the idea of taking people is you pick the food that you like, but they don't pick the food that they like. They pick the gadgets. And then when you go to the till, it's like, I'm like, where does this come from now? Where does this come from? So I'm like, we've got a rule. I go shopping on my own. And then I come back home. If they go shopping, they go shopping on their own. And when they go shopping on their own, guess what? They don't do gadgets. They just buy food. So I think that is really, I like it. I really, when someone communicate, because you have to, like what Carol Andy said, that when your ex-husband was fixing things, you were going into a place of judging mode or something. Me, I just let people get on with it. You fix something, you get on with it. Nomsa goes and find. I just go away. I go away and come back when things are done. So I don't really get involved, because if someone is doing something, I take it as a treat for me that I don't have to get involved in it. So even my children, like when they are cooking, when they decide to cook or whatever, I just let them get on with it. But I have to pray to God that the after
To the
beat,
house.
yeah, the washing up thing, they take everything out when they are cooking. So but it's nice when somebody really communicates their love language to someone, and they're not assuming, because people intend to assume. Like for me, I'm like Shireen. The small things that people take for granted is what makes me happy. Is when you cook for me. If you take me out for a meal, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how much you spend. I appreciate it, but that's not my love language. But when you go to the kitchen, you put an apron on, I think that is sexy. You put an apron on, you cook the food, you make the pudding, you do everything. I find it very fascinating and very like amazing. So it's those things that people take for granted, that for me, the little things that I find it really is my love language. Like we can go to the movies, but if I was to sit in front of at home and watch the movie, to me it's like I can, but don't watch football with me. You have to go out if you want football with me. I nearly got kicked out in my father-in-law's care home. I have to go to a different room and watch football because I'm very, very loud. So yeah, so my family knows. But it's just those little things that we do take for granted when it comes to love languages and things that make people happy. And yeah, over to you, Shireen.
Yeah, I love all of that, everything that you've said, because I'm glad we're both the same love language. And I'm sure we're more, and we also got different bits. I don't think we're all of just one type of love language, but we have particular things that sit in within that. I loved what Caroline, what you said there was really important, which was the helping and the supporting. I think having a real clear idea what support means for you, what does facilitate, words around that, and the idea that when someone says, "Can you help me?" that you're very aware of what you switch that word to what you need for you, right? So in the sense, did you notice I did a little heart? Yes. So and I think it's really important, because I think if you don't have a clear understanding of where your remit is on the task of whatever's going on. So if my partner asks me, you know, to help him cook with something, I tend, and sometimes I do take over, but most of the time I'll say, are we done? Are you, you know, what I've done here, is that enough? I'll say, we're finished, you know, can I go and do something else now? Because I've helped you with what you need me to help you with. So it's really, you know, very important to do that, but be aware that if you're helping someone with homework, that you want them to do the work themselves, right? You may want to show them something, but be very aware of how much you might be taking over their role, or taking over what it is that they've asked for. So be very clear about what have they asked the support for, and make sure you give that and not something else. And I think that is, otherwise the other person, one, feels a little bit invalidated, but they don't get to shine, right? They don't get to get the dopamine hit that they would get when they get to see the value that they've brought to whatever it is. So I think that, I think that's such an important point that you brought there, Carol Ann. It's so important that we take that on board, especially in relationships. I know it's really quite interesting, because my partner will often say to me, oh, you've cooked the supper, you've done this and you've done that and whatever. And I'd say, look, we haven't shared roles as shared roles. I mean, that's, you know, if I'm not there, you cook. If I'm there, you cook. And sometimes I'll do more of it and you'll do less of it. It depends. All I want is you to say thank you. Whatever happens, if I'm ending up doing more of that, I'll tell you when I've had enough. And I think that's really quite useful, because sometimes you do more, right? And then other times you want to be able to do less and not feel guilty about it. So I think there's this kind of neutral, as going through things in a sense of the kind of love that you're doing, is really being aware of that balance, and being aware that everybody within that is feeling as though they have those needs met, and that they are getting those needs met in a strange kind of way. So for me, that was really interesting with my partner, by, you know, just being really clear. Yes, we're in this relationship, and it's really important to recognize that sometimes we do more, and sometimes we do less. And I must admit, he does more of the gardening. And so therefore I will tend to do more of other stuff, like going up the hill and doing all sorts of crazy things, organizing. So, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do that all the time. Sometimes I do go into the garden and he has to go and do the cooking or whatever. So I think it's just what I'm really probably saying is that be aware that what makes you happy. If what's happening around you isn't, because you can't keep score in a relationship. Right? You can't keep score that I've done this, so you've done that, and I've done this, because that often happens. Someone will say, I've done this, and this so many times, and you realize actually unconsciously you've been taking score. And that's, again, you know, on one level, one's own fault, because we haven't said what we need. And we've also not paid attention to our boundary. Have they given us what we really need? You know, in order. And so we have to keep checking. We have to keep checking these aspects. It's a moving feast all the time. It's never going to be the same every single day. But it is good in the morning to wake up and think, what do I need for today to be happy? What does this person perhaps need? And check it out with them. What will help you be happy today? Yeah, what can I do? Or how can we work together so that by the end of the day we have the things that we really want? And I think, you know, doing that at the start and at the end, if you want to, at the end of the day, how did we do? Do we do okay? Can be very helpful, very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, nice to check in, you say, because you can just blunder forward blindly without realizing, and that we may have slightly missed the mark one day and not actually realized it. And the other person is being perhaps a bit protective.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to hurt your feelings, you know, of love. And now, so where does that then fit? You know, that's protection versus participation. So are you participating in the whole thing, taking part, and being honest? So yeah, just notice where you're perhaps attempting to protect somebody. But I love your phrase, the moving feast. It's this dynamic. And I think, again, this is where we have to watch where we're holding ourselves, because we don't like change. We fear change. But everything is always changing. You know, as I say, it's the only constant is change. And so I love that. Yeah, it's a moving feast. And so how are you moving with that feast? How are you devouring it? How are you being together with it and participating together in this moving feast? And certainly, yeah, keeping score. Oh, gives me a bit of a headache with a couple of my grandchildren. They'll say, well, I'd already did this bit, you know, I've already done the washing up today, or I've done the drying up, or I've done my bit. It's like, for God's sake, it needs doing, just do it. You know, there's always this keeping score, and I allow it to make me angry, actually, and get upset. So it doesn't actually help with the dynamics in the place. I get a little bit off and then just walk away. And or at other times I'll go, okay, well, you do your bit and we'll call down the other person and get them to do theirs. So I'm a bit more forgiving or a bit more tolerant. So again, it's noticing how you're being in that. But it doesn't work. So if you're keeping count, certainly take note and step back and sort of notice that and say, well, because are you getting resentful? Because then you're not coming from a loving space if you're being resentful. So it's like, how can you then shift that? How can you have that conversation? What is it that needs to be said that can just rebalance, realign everything again and stop that conversation in your head? And I think it's just, if you feel that all of a sudden you've done everything all the time, just maybe make a comment in some way that sort of they can have an opportunity, because they may be in a place of, well, I've done all this, and this, and you haven't even noticed. So where are they coming from? So again, it's that conversation, isn't it? It's having that conversation that can bring you back in line again. And again, notice, well, maybe they're thinking they're helping you by doing something else that wasn't actually important to you. So again, it comes down to, in a sense, that love language, what is important to you? So yeah, and something you said about not being a good receiver, because there's giving and there's receiving, isn't there? And love isn't about what we give, or it isn't just about that. It's about, are you open to receiving? So do you always give, and then again you start becoming resentful? But again, what's that rooted in? Is there a fear of being vulnerable, of being open to receiving? What does that, what do you make that mean if you've got to receive something? So again, it is noticing, are you open to receive? Sometimes that I have to be strong can actually block that intimacy, that being vulnerable. There's something about, oh, I've got to be strong. Keep it going. And so you do need mutual exchange and vulnerability on both sides. It's not a one-sided thing. So giving and receiving, I certainly, yeah. Are you a good receiver as well as a good giver? I think that's really important, because or again, it's that the whole thing about this conversation. Are you just missing the mark? So how can you realign it? It's stepping back. Again, and I like this quote, actually: not all acts of love come from freedom. Some are shaped by fear, habit, or unresolved wounds. Sylvia Hayes, which is what you said at the beginning. Unresolved wounds. So really, what is driving your behavior? It's really important to look at. Namsa, you're muted.
Carol Ann knows me. I like it, Carol Ann and Sharina, when you say, are you a good receiver or are you a giver and a good receiver as well? Because that is really, really important. Me and my sister, we wanted to buy my mom a present one day. She always mentioned how what she wanted to do and stuff for her dad who has passed. So then one day I asked one of my pastor and I said, we need to do something for my mom. She always talks about this. And he was like, no, that's not what she needs. And I was like, what do you mean? That's not what she needs? And he was like, buy something that is meaningful to her, that she wants, because this is expensive. But when she receives it, it's not going to really, she's gonna like it, she's gonna enjoy it, but it's not really what she needs. So and then me and my sister, and then we bought her, she's a fashion designer, so we bought a machine. And then the woman was happy. The machine is not expensive. And she was really, really happy. And since that day, we learned something that we need to stop like doing these big things. And now we are doing like small things. And I've noticed that there's little things that we do for her. She's actually enjoying it. But before we thought like doing big things or doing something for the house, it will mean a lot. But we learn that we need to do personal things that are personal to her. And she really, really loves it. And I think it's really, really important, like when you give it to someone and be able to actually receive it at the same time, and be that person that is willing to open to receive. I've seen so many people, like when it comes to my children, my friends, if I go and say, could you please babysit my children? Oh, they are happy. They could keep them for a week. But when it comes to them, when they have problems, they can't ask. They're like, I feel I'm giving problems. But I like my neighbor's children. My neighbor's children get to demand with going to stay with Nomsa. Yeah, they get to make demands that we are not going to the grandparents, we are staying with Nomsa. So, but my friends, they don't ask because they feel that it's too much a hassle, but they are happy to help out. So it confuses me. So sometimes I confront them and say, you have to ask for help. But some of them now, they get it. They do ask for help. They don't have any problems because people, they're like, they get scared. And even the relationship, sometimes the relationship can actually break if someone is not able to open up and ask what they need, emotional support. There are some people, when they need emotional support, they don't ask for it. When they, like Shireen, you said your spouse, when he asks you to come and help, you end up taking over. We had a meeting.
A big fault of women, I think.
We
Many
had a
women do that.
meeting the other day. Some girls were like, they were like, I think I'm a control freak when it comes to relationship. I was laughing. It's really like, it's really, and taking scores as well. You guys mentioned keeping scores. Carol Annie's grandchildren, I get it in my house as well. You're not the only one. And their father as well, he keeps scores. Like, I've done this time, I've done this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they keep scores. I think it's really, for me, what I've learned when I'm doing something. I was telling one of my friend, she was telling me how she finds so annoying with her spouse when he does this, when he does this. So I said to her, what I do in my house, I put my earphones on in the music. I just dance with my music when I'm tidying up. Before you know it, I tidied up the whole house.
Mm.
I don't have to complain. I don't have to. I said to try it one day. Just do things with grace. Because sometimes the things that we moan about, they take us 1 second to do. But imagine that person, they're no longer there anymore, or they die, whatever happens, and then you're gonna miss doing that for them because they are no longer there. And then she came back, she was like, actually, I tried your trick, it actually works. So I was asking myself, what was that all about? Me crucifying myself? I was like, yeah, it does work. Some days they just take 1 second to do, or sometimes if someone leaves the socks on the floor, which men do, when you get up in the morning, you can just take and just shove it in the washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
I said to her, I guarantee you, there's something like that annoys him about you. So because we don't, me is the chair, but I think I've trained myself when I'm eating after dinner, when I move out of the chair, I forget to put the chair back. And then my daughter goes, I've just done it for you, mommy. I've just done it for you. But for the past few months, I've been doing it. Yeah, I've been doing it. Carol Ann, in this house, my youngest daughter, who is 9, she goes, I'm going to Hoover today. But if the woman, even if she doesn't Hoover, it means she's done it to her. She goes, when you say it's time for you to do it, she goes, I've done it the other day, remember? I told you that I'm going to Hoover, and I'm like, but you never did it. She goes, whatever.
Oh,
Need
bless
to
her.
tick it on a box.
Because I told you I was going to Hoover, it means it's done. I'm like, but you never physically did it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
They will try
Bless her.
anything.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. All kids are like that.
It's so funny.
That's a
Yeah,
great way.
yeah.
Great
But
escape.
I mean, adults behave like that too in relationships, right? So what happens with kids happens with things. I think I mean, I heard something which Carol Ann said, which was love. If love doesn't come from freedom, and we talk, and we've kind of been talking around that, it will be rooted in fear somewhere. It will be rooted in a childhood wound somewhere. And I think very often when kids are squabbling or people are squabbling and people are taking score is because they've grown up to feel as though they haven't had enough, right? It's this, I'm not enough, or I've got to compete for time with my mom, or time, I will lose out. There's all of these things that go on. So the squabble is there, but it's really interesting. I saw someone do a really lovely thing was where she said to her kids, I love both of you. I may not love you. I love you both the same, but I may not, I love you equally, but just differently. Each of you have something unique. And so therefore you don't compete with each other. Don't need to do that for my love. I love you anyway. So, and she was able to get and really give them that sense of enoughness. So, okay, you do this task. Doesn't mean I'm going to love you any more or less. I just love you. And it was interesting to see how her kids became less competitive. They actually realized they didn't have to fight each other for the attention that they were constantly seeking. And it's nature. Part of biology. It is nature that we try and be the center of attention when we're very, very small, because that kept us safe, right? The problem is we don't outgrow it necessarily, or people don't help us outgrow it because life is busy, and mothers often, if they have a second child, can't give the same amount of unlimited attention. So it's really part of recognizing that, because actually, if you look at twins, they very seldom compete because they've both been in the same thing, they've both been given the same love. But it's normally when you have two siblings that are apart, age difference. So yeah, by really constantly giving them the message, you're enough, I love you anyway. I love you enough. I love you to the moon and back. Nobody's getting more than that because I can't give more than that. It's just everything. Um, and then just really being very clear in the boundaries as a parent, how you can do that. And then how do you manage that as an adult, right? When someone says, well, I've done this, da, 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 you say, and I love you too. And I love you too. And they kind of look, you go, and I always remember a song that someone did where a child was busy saying all the things he did, and then the mother he wrote a letter, and the mother wrote another letter. For the 9 months I carried you, no charge. And it's called No Charge, the song.
Yeah.
And actually it's really interesting because we give in so many different ways and we're not aware of it. And if we're able to really think about what we give in value, it helps us a little bit in being able to say, and not necessarily come back, but just know that actually we're in that space where we can love from that space of freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And yeah. And I love what you said when you said that, and I love you too.
I know it's very difficult to say, and I said I have said it quite a few times, and it just stops people. And I love you too, very gently, very calmly, because they straight away know that what they're saying is really they feel the old pattern straight away. It becomes an awareness, which you don't even have to say, oh, I'm noticing, but you say, and I love you.
Yeah.
You're being a pain, and I love you.
Yeah.
And then they go, yeah.
Okay. And it is that loving sort of gentleness in a way of just that prompt to help them awaken. And it is, and it's that simple, and you don't need to sort of keep going or anything, just soft, simple, leave it at that. Okay. Bye, Namsa.
And you are the host, right?
Yeah, it came up. So it should be good. Yeah, there's just, and then there were two. But it's that something around, I think, once a bit more about the protection versus sort of participation, and because sometimes men are raised to sort of protect.
Yeah.
And so they take on that protection without realizing that actually it can be a mutual thing that can happen. And sort of, so it's about rephrasing that from I've got this for us to, let's carry this together.
Yeah.
Bring that sort of we in there. And I know as someone I know who's very, in a way, controlling, or will always say, well, I'm doing this, or make that decision. And I'm thinking, but I thought we're supposed to be a partnership here. Where's the partnership? Where's that talking and discussing it together and making a joint decision rather than I've decided we're doing this, and it leaves a really bitter taste in the mouth, or a very sort of not nice feeling. So again, notice where that's happening and where's that coming from. Are you, as they being overprotective? And it's a lovely another phrase quote I've got here: when love tries to protect at all costs, it may accidentally imprison the one it wants to keep safe. It's J.R. Simmons. And I thought, yeah, again, we think we're helping, we think we're supporting, we want to protect them. How does that protection then just become that sort of prison, and we've slightly missed the mark? It is that, it's like, and how do you know that you've imprisoned them? And it then relies on the other person being able to sort of let them know in a loving way and say, look, I'm feeling imprisoned here. I don't need to be this protective. To me, you're being overprotective. And maybe, well, when did you feel the need to do that? Or when were you not protected that you feel? It's sort of little questions like that. It's just agreeing to sit down and have that conversation to really get to the root of it, so that you can move forward together. And you know, there's something else. Something about, you know, maybe you're checking up on your partner, but you're coming from a place of you want to know that they're safe.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can become too much and
Mm.
make them feel, well, what are you checking up on me for? You know, do you not trust me? And again, it's that it feels very imprisoning.
Mm.
So again, look at where that's coming from and what drives that, you know, constant need to make sure they're safe, and say, well, how can we, you know, just realign this a little bit, just so that you know I'm safe and I don't feel so imprisoned. And so maybe just agreeing, have an agreement that check in every other day or just now and again, or rather than constant all the time. And what can you do to flag up that behavior that is slipping again? And the other person agree to stopping and taking it on board. And I think you said in the beginning, there has to be agreement between you about how you're going to manage these behaviors, and being able to point them out without a finger of blame. Oh, you're doing this to me and you shouldn't be doing it. It's just, well, look, this is how I'm feeling. This is how it's coming across. So that, yeah, this, and I love you too, can come into it in that loving way that just dissipates the pain and anguish that can happen.
Well, it's a nice way, I think, of saying of bringing everything down, because everyone wants to know they're loved, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
kind of bypasses everything. You're doing it in a sense that, oh, I love you too. It's just it's kind of like, there's the space, I love you, and at the same time, what you're doing is not okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's so many things in that message, but I think the overall thing we want to always do in things is that give that grace, right? And we can only give grace when we truly say, and I love you too, from that heart space, right?
Yes.
Because when we say it, we're actually really saying it because we really do love that person. Because it's very hard to say I love you and be horrible. It is quite hard. I mean, I'd be a very skilled person to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in general, we all have senses that can notice when someone's lying to us straight away. So by actually doing that, that person knows, right now I want to kill you, but I love you, so I'm choosing not to kill you.
Yeah.
I'm at the space where I'm saying there's a stop right here. And I think that's a very powerful thing, because it still feeds into that freedom aspect that you were talking about, because it still gives us the space to be conscious that we do love this human being in front of us. And we're trying our best to hold our self so that we don't react. And so that we're giving them the space of grace to kind of see what they're doing and learn a new way.
Yeah. And actually unlearn it before you can then relearn sort of that new way, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes it is a learned behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's recognizing that it's a learned behavior so that you can then unlearn it and then relearn something that's a more appropriate behavior for that relationship. And if that relationship ends up just, you know, coming apart and you end up in another relationship, that way of being will change. So again, that behavior that was wanted in that other relationship won't be needed in another one. So it's again, it's noticing how you're behaving, what's happening, and being, what's the word, empathic, or with the other person, being aware of how your behavior is impacting them, and being open to conversation and receiving their feedback about what's happening for them. Again, that's that giving and receiving. You need to be willing to give feedback and be willing to receive it, so that again you can come to some common mutual understanding and be able to move forward. And it's all about growing, isn't it? Just keep on growing together.
Yeah. growing and expanding in love. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
the key, isn't it?
Ooh.
How do we expand into love?
Yeah.
It's a challenge when we carry lots of hurts and wounds and
Mm.
past patterns and things like that.
Yeah.
But if we truly love this human being, and it could be, you could love all human beings, you can love all life, but if you really carry that deeply within you, then you're going to, even if you make mistakes, you're going to be aware of them, and you're going to try and fix them. You're going to try and work with them. You're going to try and
Mm.
do the best you can for that person from the space of love and freedom, right?
Yeah.
From the
Mm.
space of really stepping into that, what we call a higher self, our self that is the self I think is more almost like we're outside ourselves, looking at the world in a very different way. Our best self, the self that allows us to be more than we ever thought we could be.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, because there is way much more to us than we
Yeah.
think or realize. Yeah. And it's opening up into that. And in a partnership, you can really explore that and grow amazingly together.
Mm.
There was something went in my mind and now it's gone, but never mind. What you were
For another
saying,
time, it'll come
yeah,
back.
yeah. So I just like to leave our listeners with this quote. It's, love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's giving space, not answers, showing up, not taking over. And I think that really sort of sums up beautifully a lot of what we were saying here today.
Yeah,
So,
it
Shireen, what
does.
would you like to leave them with?
I don't think I can top that. I think it
You can add to it.
encapsulates, yeah, it encapsulates everything that is here, and encapsulates everything of what. Well, I don't know if love can be encapsulated. I think it just is always constantly expanding. So yes, we can take it. We can have a taste of it
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we step into it and just keep tasting. Why not?
Mm,
Why
yeah.
not? Isn't it cool?
Exploring, is it
Yeah.
growing or are we
Yeah.
diminishing it? I think that's a great question that
Mm.
comes out of that. Is our love expanding and growing, or is it diminishing, and what's causing it? So, yeah.
To contract down. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Well, yes.
I know, I remember what I was saying. Because we've talked a lot about wounds and hurts that sort of inner child that could be dominating and coming out. If if people are struggling to actually deal with that or work with it and heal it, we're here, remember. Just reach out and one of us can help you to actually heal that wound and be able to move forward. So just remember, we're here talking about these topics, but we're also able to assist you in moving forward and healing. So we're here Monday to Friday, 1 o'clock, 1 till 2. Nomsa is here every day. We're here Tuesday, and there's others that come other days. So do, keep listening in and seeing what the topic might just help awaken you to something, new behavior and new relationships. Okay, so take care.
Bye bye.